sacrifices, play this game. I done prayed that my life would never be the same. I done prayed that I will make it bring glory to my name.
All righty, ladies and gentlemen, this is a little different. We got a collab episode going on. So it's Ivy Talks or Uncle Strib teaming up with the Verse Universe. My boy, Mr. Strib, the other Uncle Strib. It's both your uncles is coming at you live today, okay?
I'm glad to be back.
So today, me and Kyle are going to basically be going over the NFL draft and pretty much giving analysis of maybe not every single team, but just kind of breaking down, especially we'll get to the Titans for sure. Breaking down who won, who lost, who kind of just stayed the same, and just breaking down the NFL draft. So, Kyle, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so the draft was very eventful. It was a great weekend. I believe it was in Las Vegas, Nevada this year. Yeah. So it was pretty fun to watch. A lot of big things happened. It kind of the draft reminded me this year of a lot of the reflection of how free agency went this year. Very crazy and a lot of draft picks. From the draft, we did see how important receivers are. Rookie receivers were going left and right.
Yeah.
I thought for a second there, I thought it was going to be cornerbacks. That was going to be kind of the theme of the draft, just because we saw two cornerbacks get drafted in the top 5 with Sauce Gardner and Stingley. And so when I saw that, I was like, wow, the corners are jumping off the board, because no one really thought Stingley was going to be the what was he, the 3rd overall pick or the 2nd?
I believe 3rd.
The 3rd, yeah. And so no one really saw that coming. I heard it around a little bit, but I didn't really believe it, just based off of my draft grade I gave him and my film analysis and kind of the question marks when it comes to his durability and health. I didn't really think he was going to go that high, but he ended up going that high, and Sauce Gardner went high. But yeah, that's kind of my real big takes on the draft that I kind of pointed out and saw.
So I guess getting straight into it, who for you, who won the draft? That's the big question after all the drafts each year. It's all about who won the draft.
Well, I understand when people try to compare and say who was the number one team who won the draft. I really don't agree with that. And I think most draft analysis or people wouldn't say someone's necessarily was the best and won the draft. I think it's whoever won the draft are the teams that got better after the draft.
Right.
But I will say every team you can make a argument that they got a little bit better after the draft. But the thing is, did they get better and put themselves in a better position right away next year? Now, I understand teams that are in rebuild mode. Most of those teams might not necessarily try to get better to win a Super Bowl next year from a draft, but they definitely try to build a solid foundation. So, I mean, the teams I really thought that won were the New York Jets, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Detroit Lions, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Eagles. Those are the teams that I really feel like they really stand out, that they made a lot of important moves that will boost their team up to be way better than they were last year.
Right. So, looking up, I'm a statistical guy. The Baltimore Ravens Baltimore Ravens, Philadelphia Eagles are the top 2 graded out teams. So they both graded out at A+ with their picks, which the Baltimore Ravens had all the 4th round picks. I mean, you're talking they had 6 4th round picks, and they had a ton of picks altogether. I want to just look at the Baltimore Ravens because with the season last year, they were kind of a dicey team in terms of being consistently productive on offense. But looking at their draft, and with what's his Marquise downtown Hollywood Brown leaving, a lot of questions were on what's offensively, what are they doing to help out Lamar Jackson, and they didn't really go heavy offensively. In the shout out to Tyler Beatty, they drafted Tyler Beatty, my boy from Missouri. He was actually there when I was there forever ago, but he's the running back they picked up with a trade in the 6th round from Philadelphia. But they went heavy defense. Honestly, they picked up safety, linebacker, defensive tackle, cornerback, Alabama, another two DBs. They went pretty heavy defensively. So where do you think offensively they're going to end up going? Because they did pick up a couple tight ends, the running back Tyler Beatty, and they did pick up some offensive linemen. Do you think they're going to try to work on developing what they have now at receiver, at running back, or try to make some moves in free agency?
Well, based off of their drafts, I mean, the best case scenario is the Ravens try to pick up Jarvis Landry and free agency. That would be their best bet. But we all know that any receiver on the free agency market, and this has been historically accurate ever since Lamar Jackson's been the quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens, most receivers don't want to go to the Baltimore Ravens. It's a hard sell to a receiver in free agency to come play for the Baltimore Ravens because it's a run-first offense.
Right.
And there's just this stigma that Lamar Jackson's going to run it before he passes you the ball. That's just a stigma. But even we saw the video with Hollywood Brown coming out, pretty much him saying, hey, there's no bad blood between me and Lamar Jackson. But the reason why I requested a trade and wanted to be traded was because we're a run first offense, and that doesn't play to my strengths. And so, but even if you look at his statistics, Hollywood Brown had a 1,000-yard receiving season and missed 5 games and still had, I think, somewhere between 80 to 90 receptions. So my thing is, he's getting the ball a lot, and he has over 1,000 yards receiving, but everybody's complaining, say, if you're a receiver for the Baltimore Ravens, you won't get any stats, you won't get any catches. They're just going to run the ball. But what I think the future of the Baltimore Ravens and what they're really preparing for and what I really see in this draft is that they're about to go and run the ball a lot next year. They're about to run a lot of 12 personnel. They're about to feed their tight ends. I think they're just going to have Bateman on the outside. They're just going to feed the tight ends on play action. They're just going to run, play action, hit the tight end up the seam with Andrews. And then now you have Isaiah Likely, which is a very athletic, dynamic tight end. And then you also have Charlie Kohler from Iowa State, which is he's a really a red zone tight end, and he can block very well. So I really see them going 13 personnel, 22 personnel, going 12 personnel, and just running the ball. That's their plan. That's what I really see the Ravens doing next year.
You think? Oh well, that's tough. That is tough because. From what I don't know if they can pull that off, honestly. But
yeah, I mean, if you really look, the Baltimore Ravens, if seeing this draft, the Baltimore Ravens really added value. Look at Tyler Linderbaum from Iowa. He's by far the best center. He's a generational talent. He's going to be a Pro Bowl center one day.
Oh yeah, the 25th pick.
Yeah. He's going to be an amazing player and hands down extremely smart. Has great movement. And has really good pad level. And when I watched this film, I was like, wow, this is one of the best centers I've seen in a very long time coming out of the draft. And so I really think with that addition and a lot of the addition with Kyle Hamilton at safety, they're really just going to be like, you can't score against us. We're going to run the ball. I mean, this has been shown to win championships, win a lot of games. Look at the Titans last year. They just played really good bend, don't break defense. Play great defense, just don't turn the ball over and run the ball well, and that's what's gotten the Titans to the playoffs for 5 years straight. So,
oh yeah,
I mean, it's
controlling the game, possession.
Yeah, it can't. It's not like it can't be. It's not a winning formula. It can be a winning formula, and the Ravens can do it. They have one of the best rosters in the NFL currently.
That's a great point. All right, so now moving on to what was the Eagles? Hey, what were your top 5 again? Because I want to go through and break down teams you named that you believe got the best production out of the draft, and kind of just break those 5 down. And then we'll go to the other side and break down the teams that didn't really get too much better and just go from there. So we got Ravens.
So we got the Ravens. Yeah, we can just move on to the Eagles. But I said the Eagles, New York Jets, the Chiefs, and the Lions. And yeah, so pretty much with the Eagles, the biggest thing is I feel like the Eagles, their draft was good and solid. I would say it's a very good draft, but it really took them to the next level, and really got overhyped to me. But I definitely think they deserve to be in the top 5. But I think it is a little bit overhyped, mostly because of AJ Brown trade. That trade pretty much overshadowed their draft selections. So getting AJ Brown is huge for Jalen Hurts. Honestly, I think the Eagles are doing an amazing job building around Jalen Hurts, and they really are positioning themselves to take over the Cowboys in the division. Jordan Davis is probably going to be one of the best defensive tackles in the league for a very long time. Jordan Davis, and then Fletcher Cox, learning under Fletcher Cox, because Fletcher Cox is going to leave next year for the Eagles. His contract's over. He's very old. And then, like, I feel like the Eagles this draft pick shows that they're probably going to move away from Fletcher Cox next year. Right. So Fletcher Cox leaving, having Jordan Davis and Fletcher Cox. First of all, you're not going to run against this defense because you have Jordan Davis, and then they drafted Dean, Nakobe Dean out of Georgia.
Yeah.
So this is about to be the meanest interior defense. You're about to have Nakobe Dean at middle linebacker, Jordan Davis, and Fletcher Cox. I'm telling you, you're not going to be able to run against the Eagles. It's not happening. So I really think this draft made the Eagles better in every single aspect. And so adding that extra weapon for Jalen Hurts at receiver, now you have Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, which is going to be a good 1-2 punch. You have a good running game, running game and rushing game, because the Eagles were really good in the rush game last year. So with that, including now having some weapons for Jalen Hurts, and then really having now a great run defense, I think the Eagles really set themselves up to give the Cowboys a run for their money.
Did you see anything on Kyron Johnson? They got a linebacker from Kansas that they picked up late as well, just adding on maybe more depth on that defense as well.
Yeah, I saw that as well. I'm gonna be honest, I really haven't watched a lot of film of his. Because there's a few guys that in the later rounds I really haven't watched a lot of their film, which I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna watch their film and give them a proper analysis. So going into next season, I kind of know a little bit more about him. But I mean, he might be pretty good. Might be pretty
fantastic. Good. We got our analysts in the building. So we're gonna move. There's a little bit out of order, but it's just up next on my notes. Let's move to the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions had 6 picks, 2 first rounders, 3rd round, 2 first rounders, 2nd round, 3rd round, 5th round, and the 6th round. And they are pretty balanced in terms of drafting offensively, defensively. Their first pick was obviously the defensive end, Hutchinson from Michigan, stellar athlete. I mean, you're talking about – I honestly thought he was going to go first, but stellar pickup. And then they also went receiver, another DN out of Kentucky, safety, tight end, linebacker. So they're trying to build depth on offense and defensive. What's your take on the Detroit Lions?
So, yeah, the Detroit Lions, I think the Detroit Lions had an amazing draft. I mean, if you really look, their direction is great. Honestly, here's my opinion. I feel like the Detroit Lions are trying to prime themselves and prep themselves so when Aaron Rodgers leaves at the end of his career, he leaves the Packers, that they're the best team in the division, because it is possible. Their division is very weak, and with Devontae Adams leaving the Packers, I still think the Packers are going to blow out everybody in that division just because that division is so weak with the Bears. You have the Lions and the Packers. And with all those teams in that division, I really don't see – it's really up for grabs. And right. So, like, they're really making a lot of moves to be the front runner when Aaron Rodgers leaves that division. But Aiden Hutchinson, yeah, like you said, amazing talent. And then Jamison Williams,
Yeah.
That is, and then they already have St. Brown, which was a huge late round success for them last year. And I really called that pick because last year I was saying he's an amazing receiver. Why is he not being picked up? And then he got picked up and had an amazing season. I think he had 900 yards receiving. But having Jameis Williams too, we will see how he is at the beginning of the season because he did have the ACL tear last year in the title game. But I think it's really going to be he's really, I've seen videos of him in rehab. He looks pretty good already, and it's only been like 4 months. So I think by the time season comes around, he's going to be 100% ready to go. And John Pascal is an underrated pick. When I watched this film, he's not a pass rusher, like an elite pass rusher. He's not going to get you a lot of sacks in the season, but he's like when I graded him, he was the best edge rusher, like defensive end in the whole entire draft. As in, you cannot move him. He's not going to get pushed back. He's going to be great against the run. And so he's probably going to be looking at, well, on the Lions, he might even start on the Lions, but he's a very solid backup. And he's definitely going to carry his weight. And then Kirby Joseph is an amazing pick. Kirby Joseph, I think, had the best ball skills out of any safety in the draft this year. If you really look at his tape, you just see him at free safety, ball hawking. Like, I'm talking about this man I saw on his film, he was in the middle of the field and he was like man free, and the quarterback put it in pretty much out of bounds, and he came from the middle of the field and intercepted it. I was like, yeah, he's a ball hawk. Like, he's gonna go get the ball. So like, that's an amazing pick. I really think they did an amazing job pretty much building that solid foundation, especially on the defense. And then on the offense, it's really like they really went 50-50 on both sides of the ball. That's why I give them so much praise, because in the draft, you really see teams go all defense, or like they'll go all offense and draft only offensive players. Like, I like how the Lions got really good value in defense and offense. It was very balanced. Yeah, it's great.
All right. Yes, great point. So, and I mean, so far, I mean, I agree, pretty much agree 100% with everything you said. It's been some smart moves by their organizations or their whoever's in charge, GMs and front office. So moving on, we're gonna go to the Chiefs. Chiefs are interesting because we all know the Chiefs are, as long as Patrick Mahomes there, they're a contending team in terms of Super Bowl potential. They had 10 draft picks this year. 10. Two, then they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They had 5 in the first 3 rounds, right? And with the Chiefs, they've gone, again, they're fairly somewhat balanced, but they went a little more defense to offense. But obviously, the biggest concern for the Chiefs was obviously Tyreek Hill leaving, and you kind of lose your bail you out receiver, a guy you can just throw a slant to. He's going to get you 20 yards. But they did pick up Sky Moore out of Western Michigan. But the first pick they picked up was actually a cornerback because they didn't re-sign Tyrann Mathieu, even though he's more of a safety. But they picked up a DB with their first pick, and then they went defensive end with their second. And they did get the safety from Cincinnati, a linebacker, and they picked up another corner and another safety. So they kind of go heavy on the defense. Do you see them making a move for free agency at receiver, or do you think they still work with what they have to try to make it, because they're going to have to make up for the Tyreek Hill trade?
Well, I think they're just going. I just think they're going to roll who they have right now, because I mean, Sky Moore is if you look at his film, you only have to watch like 30 seconds of his film to understand what type of player this is. Because Sky Moore is going to replace Tyreek Hill. Now, you know, it's a pretty big, bold statement that he's going to be better or be the same as Tyreek Hill, but he's going to be a factor, a big factor. He really reminds me of Deshaun Jackson in his prime, like coming out of Cal. When I see Deshaun Watson's Cal tape, I see Sky Moore as well when I watch his tape and put it on. And with having Travis Kelce, having Sky Moore now, and then having Juju Smith-Schuster, I think the The Chiefs might go and try to get someone, but I really think they're gonna roll who they have now. But my biggest, I think the Chiefs did really well in drafting later in the draft than what they drafted in the beginning because Trip McDuffie out of Washington, I know people had very high praise and a lot of scouts really liked him. But when I really watch his film, he's a good corner, but I don't think he's anywhere near an elite NFL corner at all. And my thing is, he's going to be in division with the best receiver. He's playing Keelan Allen. He's playing Devontae Adams.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
gonna be guarding the best of the best in his division. And I really think he's gonna have a lot of trouble at the first half of the season. So if I were the Chiefs, I understand because it's a need. You got rid of Charvarius Ward, so like you have to. That's a need for the team. You have to replace it. But I think Trick McDuffie is going to struggle a lot against Devontae Adams. And I think he's going to struggle a lot against Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. I think those are different breeds of receivers this man has never witnessed before yet. And, he might, hopefully he does some growing up and does better in the second half of the season because we know hopefully the Chiefs will, everybody's banking on the Chiefs making the playoffs. So by the second half of the season, by playoffs, he's kind of grown up as a player. Just look at AJ Tyrell. At the AJ Tyrell kind of struggled the first half of the season when he was a rookie for the Falcons, but then the second half he started playing pretty well, and then he's now developed into a very great corner. So hopefully Trip McDuffie has the same arc as AJ Tyrell, and then Brian Cook, like I said, ever since from Sky Moore to down, the Chiefs knocked it out the park. I think Brian Cook is an amazing hard-hitting safety. This is what they need. If you really look, I think one of the weakest points in the Chiefs secondary is that they weren't good tacklers in space, but Brian Cook's really a great tackler in space, and he let he had over 100 tackles at Cincinnati. He had a lot of tackles at Cincinnati. Yeah, he either had that or like 90 something. But he's a great tackler, so it's really gonna solidify. And them getting Reed from the Texans, that's a really good combo right there. So I think Brian Cook's gonna come in immediately, make a difference for the team, and then everyone else. I mean, honestly, like just adds depth and was pretty solid picks from there on out.
Oh, and that's the Chiefs. Now, last but not least, New York Jets, which New York Jets picked up probably my favorite DB in the draft, Mr. Sauce from Cincinnati. The man that played 3 years in college, in 3 years in college at a high level, didn't give up a single touchdown and didn't give up a single pass more than 13 yards. 3 years straight. You talking about a dog. So obviously they picked him up first. They fairly even in terms of offense and defense because you got receiver, DN, running back, tight end, O-line, DN. But to me, for the Jets, I don't know how I obviously believe they for sure got better with the draft. My thing is with Garrett Wilson that they picked up at receiver, I don't know if they have the capabilities of utilizing the tools they picked up in the draft. I got to see it first. Me personally, I don't have anything against the Jets. I just don't know. I just don't know, man. To me, the Jets are one of those teams I have a question mark because I think the Jets are one of those teams they could pick up the best possible option offensively or defensively. And when the season comes around, it still might not matter.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I really think that's gonna be really the question. Like, can they utilize the talent they just acquired? But it's really gonna be on their quarterback, Zach Wilson. It's it reminds me of the same situation the Giants were in a couple of years ago when they had a draft and everybody was saying how great the Giants drafted and how much talent they're bringing in. They're doing such a good job at draft. But then it was like, can Daniel Jones use his weapons and can they actually utilize all their weapons? And then we come to figure out they couldn't.
Right.
So it's like we're in the same situation with the Jets. Oh, well, they have all these weapons now. They're drafting amazing. They're doing the right things. It's like now can they put it on the field and execute? And so that's gonna be on Zach Wilson. Now, for some reason I have more hope for Zach Wilson than Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I do too. I do
That's
too.
just me based off of like when I watched him in college. I really thought he was a gunslinger, and at the Jets, he wasn't the best season last year, and I think there's a lot of pieces to the Jets that need to be solved, and is the why they lost. I don't think it was all on Zach Wilson, but yeah, I think the Jets. I really love with the Jets. I really think the Jets have the best draft. Out of any team, I think the Jets did the best. Really, with the value they got per pick, it's like there's teams that reach for players. I think every single pick the Jets had, they never reached. They were always like stealing players. Like, oh, this person, like when they would draft somebody, I'd be like, oh, it's third round. Let's see who they draft. They're probably going to draft a good value pick or maybe reach, or you just never know. No, it was like, oh, he stole. I was like, oh, wow, that was a great player. That, like, why wasn't he taken earlier? And then
Right.
the next pick, why wasn't that person taken early? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, it was
those
all
players kind of fell into their lap.
yeah. And it was like, but and it wasn't like, because some people they get the best value, so they don't reach necessarily, or they get a value pick. They get the best player, right? But then it's like not a need. Like they'll get
The
an
best,
amazing.
just getting the best available, not
Yeah.
really, yeah, what they need.
But it was like they got the best player available and they didn't reach, but at the same time,
It was a need.
it was a need. So it was
Yeah,
like, okay, that's a plus plus. It's not, because it's not like you have like the best offensive tackle in the NFL and then you draft an offensive tackle that's really good. It's like, okay, that's nice, but he's not gonna play. Like he's gonna be at a depth, a great depth, and it's gonna be a good depth piece, but like he's not gonna play at all. But like the Jets is like, oh no, you're getting an amazing player and he's gonna play day one, and it's like the third round, and you're just like, wow, like how are you getting starters or first round projected players in the third round, and it's a need you have. So like, yeah, when you really look at it, like Ahmad Sauce Gardner, day one starter. I think Ahmad Sauce Gardner is a generational corner talent. I think he's going to be the next Jalen Ramsey. I really think that he's going to be that. When we look back, it's like, oh yeah, Ahmad Sauce Gardner. Yeah, he was that man. Like he was that dude. Like in that 2022 draft class. And Garrett Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson was the best receiver. I think Garrett Wilson reminds me of like the new type of receiver coming out. Like he reminds me of like a Jamar Chase, like a record breaking type of receiver. Like if any receiver were to break records this year, Garrett Wilson's going to be the one to do it. He's like a Jamar Chase or a Justin Jefferson type of receiver coming out where it's like, oh yeah, we know he's going to be successful. It's not like, is he a bust or is he going to be a bust or is he going to be successful? It's like, oh, we know he's going to be successful. It's just how successful is he going to be? So like Garrett Wilson is that. And then you have Jermaine Johnson, who literally since the end of the season has had the best draft season out of any player in the country. By far has dominated at the Senior Bowl. His pro day draft, like I'm talking about everything, tested amazing, has done amazing work. Like he had the best draft process. So he's amazing. He's going to put in work day one. Bryce Hall, which I think Bryce Hall is like the he's top 2 running backs in the draft this year. I had him ranked below Kenneth Walker, but he's an amazing running back that's going to do great for you coming out. Jeremy Rucker, he's a solid tight end. I really think he's the best blocking tight end. Well, actually, he's second. The guy out of Colorado State's number 1, but Jeremy Rucker, he's a really good tight end. He's playing a lot of big games. He played at Ohio State. He's very, it's not like he's not playing great talent every year and every play. So he's done well in that. And then he's a very solid tight end. Like if you just keep going down the roster, like he's just, there's no flaws in any pick they pick. So I think the Jets really did amazing. Now it's just about execution next year and see what they can do.
yeah, they do got. You looking at the roster they picked up, they got some. They were on point. They're for sure on point. Now, getting to the other side of the draft, I don't know if you have five, but just what are a few teams or a couple teams that you noticed that I don't want to say lost the draft because I believe what team didn't get that much, got the least better is how I'll put it.
Yes. And so honestly, this was very hard for me to decide because I feel like there's a lot of teams that were about the same that, and it was very hard because it was like they drafted like two or three people that were good that I really liked, or there's 1, 2 people that I really liked, but then like the rest I really necessarily didn't care for, but I mean, really off the top of my head, it's kind of hard. I would say the Jaguars, the Patriots, the Rams by default. I mean, honestly, I'm not saying, oh, the Rams are terrible at making decisions in the draft. It's more that they didn't have any draft picks like that. Like, I think their first draft pick was in the 3rd round. And we all know the Rams don't put any capital inside the draft. They get free agents. They just like, all right, we're just going to get free agents. That's how we're going to build our team is off of free agents. So I don't blame them for just getting rid of all their draft picks every single year and not having that many draft picks. But it seems like in their draft, it's more depth pieces. Like they're never saying we got to get this player because we need a need in our team, or it's more like, oh, we need this player on special teams, or we need this player for the 3rd string or 2nd string spot. And so the Rams are in there. And then I'm really hesitant to say the Titans, even though I really want to put the Titans there because I don't think they had the strongest draft, but it would be wrong to say that their draft was terrible.
Well, we'll leave the Titans out because we're gonna finish the episode just on the Titans.
On the Titans. Okay, yeah. That's good. Okay, so I would just really say those three that are like it's a for sure. Okay, I know they're outliers, and I know that they're not as good as everybody.
So the Jags, Pats, and Rams.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go into those. I do want to note that the Minnesota Vikings were graded out the worst on sportsillustrated.com. Obviously, it's all opinionated, but just want to throw that out there. They had a D- as the lowest grade, and they're the only one to grade out a D-. But let me find the notes on – here are they coming up on here we are, the Patriots. So my thing with the Patriots, Patriots are one of those teams. They're kind of like, I don't want to compare it to an NBA team, but the Patriots to me seem like a very small market in terms of trying to get superstars to go to that team. So if you look at usually for the most part, they're usually good by either getting by the draft, by developing players. So I'm interested to see what your take is on the Patriots because they pretty much live through the draft. So I do know their first overall pick was offensive line, which I'm not mad at that because they do want to you got to protect Mac Jones. I do think Mac Jones is going to be a great system quarterback for the Patriots. And a lot of times where he struggled last year, he just didn't have the time to make reads and get the ball out quick because you're replacing Tom Brady, who gets the ball out just about as quick as anybody else. It's him and Aaron Rodgers. They get the ball out the quickest in the NFL. So I wasn't mad at the offensive line, and then they went and got Thornton from Baylor at receiver. So you give him a weapon to throw to, and then their third pick was a cornerback because their defense they really got to make moves on defense. So I'm interested to see what your take is on the Patriots.
Yeah, so the Patriots. Cole Strange at a UT chat. I kind of liked it just because I'm from Tennessee. But
oh yeah, I saw the UT chat. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be honest with you. Probably nobody who was on watching the draft knew who that person was. Honestly, I never even evaluated Cole Strange. But this is typical Patriot stuff. Patriots are gonna select people you've never heard of, probably from Harvard. They're gonna be from like some D2 school. They're gonna draft. You can't just mock their draft because it's not gonna mock out how you're gonna mock out. But Yeah, I mean they do develop their players well. You are right. I think they do develop their players well. So like when they do draft, I do take into notice that hey, even if I evaluated them at this ranking, they're going to improve a lot once they get to
Right.
the Patriots,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not really hung up on the Cole Strange pick like some people would be. But my thing is with Tyquan Thornton out of Baylor. I really like Tyquan Thornton. I think he's very underrated, and I really like that pick. But the thing is, my thing is, and what I kind of see the Patriots and building their roster is a little odd to me, is that I really feel like they don't when it comes to the offense. Now the defense is a different story, but when it comes to offense, I feel like some players they get aren't the right players for the system. As in,
System.
I don't think
Yeah.
Mac Jones has the biggest arm. I really don't think Mac Jones has a lot of arm talent. I think Mac Jones' strength is he's very accurate. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He's not going to turn the ball over a lot. And he's very smart with the football, right? But like Tyquan Thornton is a very big deep threat type of receiver. So it's like I don't know if he's gonna do well with paired with Mac Jones. And then when they go into free agency and get receivers, they get a lot of deep threat receivers. But I'm like, why are you getting all these deep threat receivers when that's not the strength of your quarterback? You should get a lot of receivers that get yards after the catch, or zone, at least possessional zone receivers, maybe, and then like receivers that do well in space. So I would try to put people more in space with Mac Jones with his talents and his abilities. I would be, hey, I'm trying to get people in space or at least work the medium to intermediate range of the field when it comes to the passing attack. So I really don't know how that's going to work out. Now, Marcus Jones, I love that pick. Marcus Jones is going to be a great
Corner.
returner for you. He's going to do amazing for you in special teams. And I think he can develop into a really good corner. He's going to probably be learning with Malcolm Butler. And so that's going to be great because Malcolm Butler is also a small corner. So him giving hints and telling him and teaching him techniques of being a smaller guy in the NFL, I think that's going to be very beneficial. I think Marcus Jones has a very bright future ahead of him out of Houston. His tape is insane. It's sick. And then I really don't understand the Pierre Strong Jr. Take because honestly, I think Kevin Harris is low key better than Pierre Strong Jr. But Pierre Strong Jr. obviously has better tape because he plays at South Dakota State and he's not playing great competition. But I really don't understand that, especially when the Patriots. Why would you draft two running backs when you already kind of have a very great running back already? And then the Bailey Zappi pick makes zero sense because now you have a year one quarterback, and then you're drafting Bailey
Oh,
Zappi.
yeah.
That
That didn't
doesn't
make
make
sense.
that doesn't that I feel bad. I feel really bad for Bailey Zappi because I was really high on Bailey Zappi, and I really wanted him to get on a team that he has a potential to play at. But like now, his whole career is going to be a backup, unless Mac Jones just plays terrible or he gets hurt or something. But yeah, I mean, he is pretty much you're getting drafted to be a backup your whole career. But I mean, that made zero sense to me. It's just a lot of things that don't really make sense or doesn't really jive well with their draft picks. Besides Marcus Jones and Cole Strange, like I'm just like I mean, I don't think they're gonna make an impact soon, or it's just like they really are not the scheme fit or great scheme fit for what they're doing or what they should be doing for the future of the team.
Yeah, the quarterback one didn't make sense at all. But now moving on to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Jacksonville Jaguars, let's see. They were pretty much heavy defense for the most part. They had the number one overall pick and took the Trayvon Walker DN from Georgia. Not probably an immediate play guy for you. And they took linebacker. They took two linebackers and two defensive back, two corners. So they went heavy. They went heavy defense, and then they also took a center, running back, and they only took a center and a running back for offensive. So I'm interested to hear what you got to say about the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Well, for the Jacksonville Jaguars, if you look at their first 3 rounds, they actually did a solid job. I think Trayvon Walker out of Georgia is gonna be a great pick, and then Devin Lloyd out of Utah is an amazing pick, and I think he's a great fit for their scheme and what they do on defense. Probably and is a great replacement for Miles Jack, because Miles Jack was awful last year. Honestly, Davis Lloyd is gonna be way better than Miles Jack. I think he was great at like worst linebacker of the year last year. But and then Luke Faulkner out of Kentucky, he's solid. I don't think he's anything amazing or extravagant, but you know, he's a solid third round pick. But I my biggest gripe with the Jacksonville Jaguars is that they first of all they really didn't add any weapons for Trevor Lawrence. Like it's like
that's exactly what they didn't draft a single receiver or even a tight end.
Yeah, it's like what do you from this draft as a Jacksonville fan, like what do you have forward to look to improve the offense last year, which was like wasn't abysmal, but like it's not taking a step. It's not even taking I mean they had some flashes last year.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, like it's not that it's like I wouldn't think this draft was terrible if you were a team that didn't have that many needs. Like if you're a team that was like, let's say the Colts, or if you're the team like the Rams, or if you know what I'm saying, if you're a team like the Chargers, this draft wouldn't be eye-opening to me. I'd be like, okay, it wasn't the best draft, it wasn't worse, it was just like, okay, decent. But you're the Jacksonville Jaguars. You have a lot of things, because if you look at the Jets, you look at the Lions, you look at the Giants, all three of those teams added a lot of value in the draft and made a lot of big moves and really tried their hardest to get more talent, speed, strength on their team. But when I look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, it's like you're in that conversation with the Giants, the Jets, and the Lions. You're in that type of rebuild mode, but it seems like you really didn't do anything this draft. Like you added a couple, like 2 or 3 pieces. Like, yeah, that's cool and all, but like it needs to be at least like your first 5 or 6 picks. I need to be like, yeah, that's good value, that they're gonna make a difference on the team. That's good value. You know what I'm saying? It was like, okay, there's like 2 or 3, and like that's it. Like you need a lot more going on that you have to do as a team to even be talking about not being the first pick next year. Like you could easily be terrible again next year, especially with the Texans improving their team a lot better than the Jaguars are. I mean, we'll see, but I think the Jaguars, what they have going for them is they got a good coach now. So, you know, hopefully they, but I really don't see them from this draft really being any better next year that much.
Yeah, I thought for sure they, especially with this heavy receiver, or it seemed like a heavy receiver draft, I thought for sure they're going to at least get a receiver to help, just an explosive downfield receiver to help out Trevor Lawrence, or to give him a weapon. So going on, before we get to the team to talk about, LA Rams. So the LA Rams, just some notable draft pickup. They picked up 4 defensive backs, 2 corners, and 2 safeties. Their first pick they picked up was a Logan Bruss out of Wisconsin, and they did pick up a couple of offensive linemen and a linebacker. So primarily heavy on the defense, but while also picking up some guys to protect Mr. Oh man, why is his name escaping me? Help me out. Matt Stafford. Oh my goodness.
Matt Stafford.
Yeah. So I'm interested to hear what your take is on the Rams.
Well, I mean, Logan Bruss is solid. He had a very long career. He played a lot of games. I think he had 352 career snaps. So he's a guy who has a lot of experience, is very smart. And he's played in the Big Ten. It's never that bad to draft a Big Ten offensive lineman who's played a lot of games. Usually that's a good turnout at the end of the day. But when I really look at this draft, I mean, I don't really want to harp on it too much, mostly because I mean they're good. They got their roster.
They don't have a lot of needs.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of needs like that at all. And I think this draft is just special team players and adding depth to positions. I that's what my take is on it, really.
Yeah, usually the Super Bowl team don't have too many needs to fill, and it's just more adding depth. Or if they have guys traded or leaving, it's just to fill those positions.
I mean, we
Now,
can talk about the Vikings if you want to.
the
Since,
Vikings.
yeah, we can talk about the Vikings. You said they're rated the worst.
All right, well, let's
Just
pull up the Vikings. So now, Minnesota Vikings. I don't even know where to begin. Even though the deep corner out of Missouri got drafted, MIZ, shout out. But yeah, let me hear your take on the Minnesota Vikings because they graded out as at a D minus, but it does seem looking at who they or again looking at when I look at the draft, I don't necessarily obviously feel like the first 3 rounds I look at who they're drafting, but when I look at the overall draft from my eyes, I look at what positions do they need? Are they filling the positions? And looking at the positions that they drafted, they filled a lot of needs. They got tight ends, offensive linemen, receivers, defensive ends, corners, linebackers, safeties. So you talk about a team that has a lot of needs. It seems like they tried to obtain those needs. So what's your take on the Minnesota Vikings?
yes, and also I want to say I think when I mentioned the NFC North, I left out the Vikings. So I know the Vikings are in the NFC North. Just I know someone's gonna be like, "Yo, you left them out." But yeah, so yeah, I would say here's the thing. I know they're ranked the worst, but my own personal opinion is that they had a decent draft. I don't really think it should be ranked that bad, honestly.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think they had the worst draft.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't mention them when I brought up the outliers of what I kind of looked at them and saw. Oh yeah, I know for sure they're in the bottom 5. But why I didn't include the Vikings is because you're right. I understand why they are ranked the lowest or why someone would rank them the lowest because I definitely think Lewis out of Georgia, the safety out of Georgia, he's not the best. He doesn't really pop out when you turn on his film that like, oh yeah, he's definitely like a first round pick.
They picked up guys. They picked up guys early when they could have got them later.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he was probably going to leave the board in the second round, but it was one of those players where I think he was more of a bust player. Like I think he's going to be. I could see him being a bust in the NFL, and it's not. And I see certain things like I think Nick Cross is better than him, and Nick Cross got picked later. Like just because I feel like Nick Cross is a great safety when I put on his film, but and then Andrew Booth. I think Andrew Booth was one of the overrated corners. I think Andrew Booth is solid though. He has a good frame. He's very strong corner. He's going to come up and tackle. But I just really don't see Andrew Booth being a very good coverage corner, like an elite coverage corner in the NFL. But I think Andrew Booth is a very solid 2 on a team or maybe 3 corner. But I mean I do really like some picks they have, like Ed Ingram. Ed Ingram's a beast at guard. Like Ed Ingram's gonna be amazing in the NFL. And that's a good solid pickup for the Vikings, especially because they run the ball so much with Dalvin Cook. But like you said, then they picked up Ty Chandler, who's he's going to be a great second string running back for the Vikings. Ty Chandler's he rushed for a lot of yards at North Carolina. If you put on North Carolina games, he really low key carried that team because he would run the ball and get a lot of rushing yards. He would get like 100 rushing yards, and then the quarterback North Carolina would just do RPOs all the time. And why they were so successful at it and pretty much made the quarterback at North Carolina's career was his name Howell or Sam Cowell. I don't know if I butchered his name, but what made his whole career is because all their safeties, you watch this film, they would be in the box because Ty Chandler was averaging like 6 yards per carry, and then they would just RPO, go deep ball, and then that's how they won games pretty much. That was their offensive scheme. But I really like Ty Chandler at second string. But my thing is the Vikings, you're correct. You hit it right on the nose when you said that they filled a lot of their needs. My thing is, yes, they drafted their needs, but I feel like they didn't get a lot of value
From
in the
that, right, in
positions
that
in this
position.
draft for their needs. Because I feel like we all know that they need corners, but it's like their supposedly best corner they drafted, Andrew Booth, is not even a number one corner on a team, like on the team.
Right.
Like he's not even a number one corner. But and then with Patrick Peterson, age is, obviously Patrick Peterson not in his prime right now and is aging. But the only good thing to say is that they play in a bad division, and so they might be able to work with this draft class and still be pretty good. Yeah, and it's not like the Packers have just a boatload of receivers,
Yeah, at all.
So it's like, okay, they can work with this, and they drafted their needs, but it's not the most. They don't have like extremely high value on every single need pick they have, so that's why they're there.
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense. Again, this is just Sports Illustrated rankings that I was looking at. Now, last but not least, we got to get to the team of the most importance. We got to talk about the Tennessee Titans and you talk about, I've done an in-depth analysis this past offseason of Titans, what they need, the rankings by position and all that good stuff. And, I'm thinking we're going to have a decent draft, and we shock the entire world and trade the best receiver we've had in decades, in over a decade, A.J. Brown, trade him to the Eagles, right? Or was
yes,
it?
we traded. Yes, he went to the Eagles.
Trade to the Eagles, Philadelphia Eagles. And I was upset. We pick up, but let's get to draft picks. We obviously if you trade the best we've had in decades. I mean, he missed a handful of games last year and still had almost 1,000 yards receiving. So you're talking about production. And he played a lot of games hurt, but they obviously picked up Treylon Burks out of Arkansas, receiver, because you got to replace your number one receiver with the best receiver you can possibly get. But I'm not gonna lie though, the rest of the draft, I'm not. Again, Kylan can go in on who specifically they picked up, but and since I wasn't able to see the later rounds, I was just T was filling me in on who we were picking up, and he was saying, and I was asking what position, because I'm just seeing if we're filling the positions we need. And I know for the problem we've been having for the past couple of seasons is getting us a solid lockdown corner. Now, I don't know much about Roger McCarry.
No, McCary.
But corner out of Auburn. We picked up a corner. We got us.
That's what it is. McCreary. Sorry.
We picked up a corner. We got an offensive tackle. Malik Willis. I want you to talk on that, because now that gets interesting to me. It gets real interesting to me because I think we talk about who could be QB number one going in halfway through the season. It becomes that definitely started interested me. Then we picked up a tight end, running back. We all know, this running back is just adding depth at the running back position. We did pick up Kyle Phillips from UCLA late in round 5, and then we picked up some more defense, safety from Tennessee, and Campbell, linebacker from Ole Miss. So what is your breakdown analysis of the Tennessee Titans?
Well, I'll say this. You know what? Before I even do anything, man, I'll just address the Malik Willis. I'll address about that. So Malik Willis by far has the highest ceiling out of any quarterback in the NFL draft. Now, I will say this. I think Kenny Pickett was the best quarterback in the draft. And I know a lot of people were harping on Kenny Pickett. And the Pittsburgh Steelers draft class is an amazing case study. Like, I think they have really one of the most interesting draft classes. And so, but Kenny Pickett, I think that because I feel like Kenny Pickett is the most ready to play right now because he's very mature. He's older. He's played a lot of college football. And I think with his weapons, he has a lot of things that will actually translate well to the NFL, especially in the Pittsburgh Steelers offense, which is going to have a good run attack with Najee Harris, and he has a lot of weapons. So never can you pick it, but Malik Willis has one of the highest ceilings out of any quarterback in this draft class, and I think this is the best position Malik Willis to be on the Titans. And I think this is a great move by the Titans because everybody that really studied the Titans and mock draft them, because I mock draft the Titans probably like 4 or 5 different times throughout since February until the draft. And every single time I've had them picking up a quarterback. Everybody's had them picking up a quarterback. I had them picking up Carson Strong or even Bailey Zappi because everybody knew that the Titans needed to draft a quarterback to have competition with Ryan Tannehill and light a fire under Ryan Tannehill because that's going to breed competition. This is going to make him better in the offseason. Ryan Tannehill can't be like, all right, I'm going to just chill this offseason or come into training camp and be like, well, I'm the guy. I'm still going to be the guy. You know, obviously I have to work hard because, you know, of the past 2 years, you know, I haven't been the greatest in the playoffs. Like he kind of knows that, but it's a difference between like motivating yourself because, okay, I got to do this to get better for myself. It's a difference between that than being motivated. Like if I don't do well, I will lose my job. That's a different type of motivation.
Right. Yeah.
So everybody knew the Titans were going to get a quarterback, but no one knew they were going to get the caliber and value of a quarterback like Malik Willis. Now
they got him late.
Yes, exactly. And he slipped, which was perfect. It was a perfect situation for the Titans. But here's the thing. Malik Willis is not going to start his first year. He's just not going to start. And the only way possible Malik Willis is going to start is if either A, Ryan Tannehill turns the ball over next year. Now, if Ryan Tannehill just starts throwing interceptions left and right, they're going to put Malik Willis in. You know, we've seen this happen, especially with Mike Vrabel. He did the same thing with Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota was making a lot of turnovers. They brought in Ryan Tannehill from Miami, and Ryan Tannehill had an amazing preseason, had an amazing camp, and everybody was saying how great he was on the team. So when Marcus Mariota was struggling, even though Marcus Mariota was the guy, the franchise guy, Mike Vrabel don't care about that. Mike Vrabel only care about winning games. And so if the only way Ryan Tannehill can lose his job year one is if he turns the ball over a lot, which is very unlikely because you only can turn the ball over so much with the offense that runs the ball so much. Like if you run the ball all the time, it's harder to throw interceptions than if you're passing the ball 50 times a game. So Malik Willis is going to sit out his first year, and he might even sit out his second year. But then eventually when Ryan Tannehill's tenure contract's over, we all know Malik Willis is going to come in, step in, and play. Now, this is perfect for him because he can be set up like Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, sit out a couple years, learn the offense, get used to things, and then he comes in and plays. Now, here's the thing. I think from this draft class, I think the Titans are doing something where I don't really know. I really think they might be thinking about changing how they work the offense, mostly because I think they see the Bills, they see the Chiefs, all these teams in the AFC and how successful they are and how they get to the Super Bowl. They're teams that pass the ball a lot, have really dynamic quarterbacks that have great arm talent. Malik Willis has all of that, but how can you utilize that to the fullest extent? You're going to have to start passing the ball more. But it's like you have Derrick Henry and Malik Willis. It would be interesting to see how they're going to try to make both of those things work at the same time. And so, you know, I think eventually this is great for the Titans to get Malik Willis. Now, with the Titans draft overall, I think it's very highs and lows. It's a very inconsistent. And I think to the average Titans fan or the average viewer or even fans that are not Titans fans, they're just NFL fans, they look at the Titans draft, you're going to see some people say, oh, this was an amazing draft by the Titans. And you're going to see some people say, this was a terrible draft by the Titans. But if you really look at it and you really evaluate and put everything in context of the history of the Titans and where the Titans are currently and what their plans moving forward, it's really a decent draft. It's not bad.
That's what I was thinking. It was decent.
But I wouldn't say it's amazing, mostly because you get rid of AJ Brown and you pick up Treylon Burks. And my thing is, I don't even think Traylon Burks would have been picked before we could have gotten him at like the 26th pick. I don't even think we need to trade up to get Traylon Burks, but maybe we did. I mean, I don't know. I'm not in that room.
That's the biggest problem. I agree. That's why I was really upset about who they picked. So obviously the AJ thing being traded, I was upset. Then with their first round pick, they picked up Traylon Burks. Again, I think he's a great receiver, but I think if we had just used our second round pick, I think he still would have been on the board. So then you have AJ Brown and Burks.
Exactly.
That's what we could have had.
And my thing was the Titans don't have a lot of, they don't have a big receiver core, as in they need more depth at the receiving core, because we saw when Julio Jones went down and we saw when AJ Brown got hurt in the season, we had 0 receivers. Like we had no receivers at all. We had Westbrook. We had Akeem Westbrook, and like that was our best receiver. Akeem Westbrook would be a practice squad player on some NFL teams' rosters. I'm telling you, like if he were to go on if he was on Cincinnati Bengals, he would be literally a practice squad player. And like, so it's like, but he's our best starting receiver at one point in the season. So it's like, we need so much depth.
Well, he's our best starting receiver right now because he's the only receiver we re-signed. We got rid of Julio and AJ.
Right. But now we have Traylon. But my thing is Traylon Burks now. And what I kind of feel bad for him because Traylon Burks is a good receiver. He's a good receiver. And I think Traylon Burks has a very high ceiling. But I also thought the same thing about Corey Davis when he came out. And so I don't know how well the Titans can develop receivers.
Yeah.
And historically, the Titans have really been the best at developing receivers, but he does have a high ceiling. And he is, some people say, a AJ Brown clone because they have very similar measurables. But my thing is Traylon Burks can come in and do well. I have no idea. He could come in and do very average. He could come in and do bad, or he could come in and have a great season. I have no idea. Now, he has the potential to do great, and he has the potential to do bad. Now, we're going to see, but it is putting a lot of pressure on a young receiver. Now, like Garrett Wilson, I know he's going to come in, he's going to do great. But Traylon Burks, it's like, I don't know. He could be a bust. He could be great. Like, it's really a very risky decision. Now, Roger McCreary, he's a great, I think he was probably top 2 best SEC cornerbacks in the SEC. He's been that for the past 2 years, honestly. Roger McCreary, he's a great cornerback, and he adds a lot of depth to the cornerback room. Right now, the Titans cornerback room is amazing. They're amazing. Now, I will say this. It's like they have like 3 number 2 corners or like 4 number 2 corners. Now, Caleb Farley, we have to see what's in next. Now, this pick, a lot of people said because of this pick, obviously they said something must be wrong with Caleb Farley because they said, oh, this pick shows that they have no confidence that Caleb Farley is going to do good next year. But it might not be the case. Maybe they just want to add more depth to the cornerback room because there's nothing, honestly, if you want to add more depth, adding more depth to offensive line and then adding depth to the DB room, you can never go wrong with that because the DB room, if someone gets hurt and you ain't got no depth, you're losing games, period. Point blank, period. You're going to lose games because you're going to get bombed on, like, right? So, I mean, I like the pick. It's a great value, solid. And then, but Nicholas Petit-Frere at Ohio State, he is not a left tackle. He would never, if he's ever a left tackle in the NFL, something has drastically went wrong with the Titans. And yeah, Ryan Tannehill's going to have 1 second or 2 seconds to pass the ball, but he is definitely a right tackle. He's a project offensive tackle. And I think they're going to try in about a year or two, make him the starting right tackle for the team. He's going to be a good depth piece for the team, even though I really think we still need help at that right tackle position. That was our weakest position on the offensive line last year, but maybe he'll make it better. We will see. Hopefully he does. And Hassan Haskins is an amazing pickup for the Titans. I think he's going to be a great number 2 running back behind Derrick Henry, and he kind of replaces Foreman last year. I think that's a great replacement for Foreman for last year. And then Kyle Phillips. I love that pick by the Titans. Kyle Phillips in the draft process, a lot of people, he had probably at the slot receivers, he probably had the best slot receiver draft process. And I think he is like one of the best slot receivers. And I think he's gonna that is a pick that's gonna add more depth to the receiving core that the Titans need. But I just wish that Treylon Burks and we could have got Kyle Phillips. That would have been like really made me feel great about the receiver room for the Titans. But that is a great. Yeah, Kyle Phillips is an amazing slot receiver. He probably has one of the best route running you could possibly have at slot receiver, and he was great for UCLA. But yeah. So like I said, like just hearing me explain it, it's like a lot of ups and downs. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think this draft class is really a draft class for the future, and I really don't think this draft class makes the Titans better next year. I think this, like, if I looked at this draft class by the Titans, I would say I would think the Titans went like only won 4 or 5 games last year, and they're trying to rebuild the team. But that's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to win a Super Bowl. They're trying to win the division. They're trying to win the AFC championship game. And this draft class doesn't reflect it. That's why I say it was average and not one of the better draft classes for the Titans.
Yeah, to me, it started off rough, but then, as it went on, I was okay, not bad. Yeah, I guess we do need an offensive tackle.
And we really, I would have liked another interior I would have liked the interior offensive lineman in there, but hey.
Yeah, for sure. But that's all, folks. We went through. Pretty much, obviously, we don't have time to go through all 32 teams, but we kind of went over our most improved, or the teams that got the better the most, and the teams that just didn't necessarily get better, but maybe just filling some needs. And we went over the hometown. And so great collab podcast. So if you're listening on IB Talks, this is also going to be on our brother's podcast, Verse. And if you're, and then go ahead and talk to the people listening on the Verse, man.
Yes, Verse. I know I've been gone for a little minute. I took a week off. I had I'm finishing. My last week of classes are this week, so I'm finishing up my MBA. So I graduate May 7th. This very soon. I think this upcoming Saturday, something like that.
Next Saturday.
I've been very busy with finishing up, doing final projects and all that stuff. So, after I graduate, I'll have so much more time to really delve more into the podcast. And I know I have some things going on, and finance or Uncle Strib, got some plans in the works. We're starting kind of a Discord together as well. We're pretty much going to be more active, and I'm going to be more active in regards to social media and stuff. Thanks everybody from VG Nation. We finally got more over 1,000 followers on Twitter, so I really appreciate that. And I look forward to making more podcasts with y'all.
Yeah, man. Drop your socials for the VG Nation.
Yeah.
Hey man, you gonna drop your socials?
Oh yeah. My fault. So my Twitter, my Twitter is Verse 615. So VERSE 615. Yeah, you can get my sports takes on that.
Yeah, y'all heard that. And then for the IB Talks listeners, Twitter is just the IB Talks podcast. It's the same for Instagram. Y'all heard it here. Stay tuned for more from VG Nation, Verse, and more from IB Talks. We'll catch you guys next time.